The Depth to Delve Deep by Rote. Chapter 2 On the Way. It's early in the new year when an SUV, a sports utility vehicle, is driven to the airport and left in long term parking. Rote purchases a plane ticket. It's a 1 month return airfare. Before departure, he buys a couple of cartons of cigarettes. He'll also need a supply of acetaminophen with codeine. Rote has an unfortunate addiction to a poor man's painkiller. He takes it to alleviate a chronic pain in his left sinus and nasal passage. At times it throbs so sorely the whole left side of his face goes painfully numb. He's still bothered by the ever-present pain, even after several surgeries in the past failed to remedy the rhino root. To manage the pain, he avoids his disdain by staggering shopping at each local pharmacy. Like any addict who knows a drug, they also know how to shop around in a way to draw little attention as possible to the purchase. He bothers a lot of pharmacists. One in particular seems sick of seeing someone come in repeatedly for behind-the-counter 200-pill capsule container of generic acetaminophen with codeine, mixed with 15 milligrams of caffeine, a minuscule 8 milligram count of codeine phosphate per pill, along with a 300 milligram amount of acetaminophen. The pharmacist says off the cuff, "This country is the only one in the world selling this type of acetaminophen with codeine, needing no prescription." The words stick and sort of plant a seed in a mind ready to find out for sure. It's not long after the writer arrives at the airport. While waiting for the plane inside the airport, a telltale sign of the times transpires when a dodgy détente overseas begins. An extremely edgy person of distant descent tries to bump up an assigned seat at the counter. The other passengers waiting to board are aware of the person cautiously cajoling the airline attendant. Some within earshot are overheard saying, "Let's hope he's doing getting on the plane." The surprising suspicion stems from September 11, 2001, where views of potential hijackers are heightened. That happened a few months ago. A safe feeling forms when the suspect leaves the waiting area without boarding the plane. Rote's relieved, though still stressed. After all, in a very short time, with reckless abandonment, all belongings, including home and vehicle, are parted with not a word in passing to friends or family. He's moved to fly overseas by whatever possesses him to write the book. The same possession now possesses him to pursue its purpose. This isn't the first time he flies to London. A welcome windfall of $1,000 allows him to fly over after finishing his manuscript, though not before sending it. It serves as an impetus to send it upon his return. To return is his hope. His first flight overseas lasts only a week, but what a week! All he can think about is returning. This time, the plane flight back over to London is with the same airline to and from the same airport, though now there's no room to be bumped up from the bulk, determined while waiting to board. On board, a plan is pondered while squished in a seat, one of the many seats squeezed into the main frame of the plane. The plane lands at London Heathrow. The airport is supported by a subway system they call the Tube, or Underground. On the Underground, the writer heads to the very same safe haven had before. From there, he's off to the publishing house to find out about his manuscript. He will secure its safe arrival and then pursue its purpose. Rote returns to the bed and breakfast. He descends downstairs with his two blue bags, two tightly packed carry bags likened to gym bags, filled with what would be a walking wardrobe of whatnots. The separate and collective weight of the bags of rags weighs heavily. Like a balance scale so laden, arms are left longer in length with every heave-ho. So much so, the present physical form fears the primeval possibilities. He settles in and sees, like his first flight, he's again alone in the downstairs dorm. He picks the same bottom bunk at the back. Unpacked, he knows the time is nigh to nose to the address that the chosen courier has caused to deliver the manuscript. The following morning, after a restless night of sleep, the writer reaches the publishing house like a reconnaissance rover, rightly entering with the indignation worthy of worrying even the most righteous. Right then and right there, he asked one of the two receptionists, both in black and both wearing a pentagram hanging from a necklace, to cue up the editor in question. One calls on his behalf to see if he can be seen. After that receptionist puts down the phone, she kind of looks at the Rambler with reserve. He's steaming with engines of war. He wants to know the whereabouts of his life and leave. He will settle for no answer but that. Nothing else will make him leave. The receptionist reviews the righteous indignation received from the riled Rote writer and relays a message from the editor. Leave your name and number and reason of inquiry. That's not good enough. I need to know now if my manuscript arrived here safe and sound. The taken aback and black receptionist calls upstairs and again relays the same message. Not good enough. He needs a definite answer, an acknowledgement, actual proof his manuscript arrives safely. Again, the reproached receptionist calls upstairs, and this time, after hanging up, forwards a message to the worried writer. The editor's own assistant will be on the way downstairs. It's done with deliberation in an attempt to assuage the angst author. Immediately, when the door opens, he's taken aback by a blonde beauty in black. The alluring assistant enters the lobby of the publishing house. All the gumption gives way to the immediate presence of a person who proceeds to pamper him with assurances. Yes, your manuscript arrives safely. Yes, the editor, not the publisher, will read it. And yes, we'll contact you if you'll just leave a telephone number and an email address. He gives both, leaving a whole lot of worry behind. Relieved, the Rote writer leaves with an apt alias. It will be his name. He's a writer, and he wrote his book by Rote. Rote writer returns back to his bed and breakfast. Down the narrow stairs he goes, through the door, bypassing a mirrored row of bunk beds. There are 8 in total. This is the last one on the left-hand side of the dorm. He plumps down on the bottom tier of the double-deck dorm bed. He's down in the basement of a building that, by British standards, is quite new, 225 years old or so. After a brief nap, Rote resurrects from his relief that all is well. While out for a walk, he thinks, okay, what now? Why not see the things not seen on my last round trip to London, like London Tower and the Temple? He's off to the Tower to pay the £11 price to enter, to be immediately taken with its towering history and the way it's built.